What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Flip Lifestyle Podcast. It is great to be back with you again this week, man. I love my job. You know why? Because I get to hang out with cool people all the time. I get to get out on the road and meet amazing people and see amazing people come in and out of the Flip Lifestyle community. And we get to share our stories of living life on our terms. And I got to meet my amazing guests today out at one of our live events, and their story blew my mind. I was like, guys, I just want you on the podcast so I can hang out and we can talk more, because I didn't have time to get the whole deal. So I want to welcome Dave and Beth Mortell on the show today, baby. What's going on?
What's up, Shane? Good to see you, buddy.
Yeah.
Dude, good to see you guys too, man. Anytime I go near a sailboat now, I can't help but think, where are the Mortells at? That's what I want to know. What is going on? Let's talk about your background first. Before we get into let's talk about how we met. Okay, so we came out to one of our live events, and
in Denver.
In Denver, yep. And one of my guys comes over to me and he goes, "Dude, you got to go meet these people. He goes, I don't know what's going on." He goes, they have a sailboat. They live in. I don't know what's going on. So tell me about you guys, and take me back a little bit about how before you got into this lifestyle you're living now, and what did you guys do before you kind of started living life on your own terms?
Oh man, how long's your podcast?
Oh, dude, it's my podcast. We can go as long as we want, bro. I don't got to be anywhere for a couple. My kids don't get out of school for 2 hours, so we're good.
All right. Well, let's see. We've been married 30 years, so it's a long story actually, but we'll try to shorten it up a bit. But so I got into working for a company out of Santa Monica that does software sales, and was pretty involved with that. Our company got acquired a couple of times, and so certainly benefited from that. And long story short is I was able to retire earlier this year. And I always say that we retired wealthy, not rich, right? We don't have a ton of money, but we are blessed with a lifestyle with our daughter, who's 14. She reminds us she'll be 15 like in 2 weeks.
Yes.
But you're hanging on to it, Dad.
Blessed.
You got to hang on to it one more. Just 2 more weeks, man. You got to hold it down.
And she's such an awesome kid, though. But and so we've been blessed with this time together. And and I say we have this long story because on our website you can see us talking about I grew up with sexual abuse by a Catholic priest. I grew up with an alcoholic father that was pretty violent. And then after we got married, I went through periods of, I think I burned like 6 of my 9 lives, but
no doubt.
Then we went through cancer, like a brain aneurysm, some heart stuff, and being septic. I mean, all kinds of crazy stuff, right? And so we came to this conclusion, like, hey, man, life is short. I have no idea. Like the kind of cancer I had was melanoma cancer, was stage 4, on my brain and lungs and my lymph nodes. That's kind of cancer that, is sometimes a kiss of death. Right. And so we decided, life is too short to, work for another few years, make whatever amount of money we can make in those few years. Landon's off to college, and we've lost that time, not only with her, but however much time I have left. Right. And so we're like, let's just pull this trigger now. Let's retire now. And, we'll live, however we have to make this lifestyle. So we bought a boat, and let's see, when was that?
May. During COVID, we bought the boat.
Bought the boat, and it was a brand new boat. And we started sailing May 5th
of this year.
This year. Yeah. And on May 18th.
That's a big decision, bro. Beth looks like she's on board with all this, but my wife always Jocelyn's always gets, she's like, I don't know how you talk me into things, but right. Was any of that in your mind? Like, how old are you guys? First?
I think
you said you're retired.
54 and 53.
I'm 45 and she's 55.
So there you go. Totally early retirement though. But when he came to you and was like, dude, let's forget this. What did you think? When you all
both kind of adventure junkies. We learned to sail when we were living in Texas. There wasn't a lot to do in that area, and so we loved it. And probably pretty much every year since have gone on vacation just by chartering a boat. We both got our captain's license, you would call it, but we can
certification.
Yeah, we can captain our own boats. So we've done that, but it never occurred to us that it would be a lifestyle. But somehow over those 20 years, we just kept talking about it, and there was this underlying, this kind of thing. it fueled our fire.
Well, we've been chipping away, right? I mean, to Beth's point, over the last 20 years, we've been kind of chipping away at this dream, both from a financial perspective. You know, we always talk about, and we teach our daughter, you know, short-term sacrifice for long-term gain, right? And so we were banking all of Beth's salary. You know, we were living pretty frugally, you know, for the most part, and you know, all of that was going towards a sailboat fund.
Yeah,
and so. You know, so we've been planning this for quite a while. So it wasn't like, you know, I sprung this on her at the last minute.
But I think all of these little things, little by little, kept making us think, wow, so many people talk about we all have dreams, right? But we talk about it. But one day we just said to each other, if we don't pull the trigger and do this, it's just lip service we're giving to this, right?
Amen
it's never going to be a dream realized. There's never going to be, you know, never enough money, never the right time to, you know, to pay for college, to buy a house, to get a new car, whatever it may be.
Anything at all.
To do anything.
Yeah, that's exactly. I learned that every year I live, I realize that more, man. It's just like people are always looking for the right time or the right plan. And like we do things like chipping away at stuff. Like I'm just saving up, I'm doing this, but man, you ain't never going to hit the line. No. You're just never going to show up if you don't go do something. That's why I always start all my presentations. I try to squeeze this in the first hour. Greatness flows through your lips and fingertips until you roll up your sleeves and open your wallet and get after it. It's just in your head. It might as well have never happened in your head because it's just imaginary at that point, you know?
Totally.
It's so true. And I love that we both bought into that at the same time. No one had to drag the other one. We just said, hey, what would this mean? And it comes with sacrifices. And we realized, gosh, we have family, aging parents, things that we thought, oh, is it fair to do this now or whatever? But I think
was your daughter in school at the time or was she still homeschooled when you decided to do this?
Well, both, I guess. We homeschool. I mean, we did real school, traditional school, I should say, up until third grade. She's now ninth. So I think it was.
Did I say real school? Is that what I said? Or regular school?
No,
oh, my bad.
No,
That's what I meant. That's not what I meant. I meant traditional school. That's what I meant. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna get homeschooled blasted now. I'm gonna get 100 emails.
Right.
She hears me say that all the time, and I'll tell people, well, when she was in real school, and she's like, what we're doing is not real school.
Dude, I used to say that about our business. I used to say like, we would say real world business and online business. And Jocelyn finally was like, yes, aren't they all real world businesses? I'm like, yeah, I should probably say that. We homeschooled for a while too. So she was in regular. Yeah, we did for like a year. And we messed it up. We weren't very good at it, which is hilarious because we're both school
anybody's
teachers.
really good at it.
Yeah. We were like bad at it, really bad. Like I would love to try it again, but our kids, we kind of have like a Friday Night Lights kind of town. You know, it's like old school, and like our kids really missed school. So like, because we already started them in normal, like regular school,
right,
traditional school. So like, we kind of bailed out on it and went back after it. I would love another shot at it though, you know?
So the time that you get with them, we ask her every year, do you want to go back to traditional school? Do you miss socially? We have more on our calendar now than we did at school. Cause that's the question we get a lot. Oh, did she feel like you're taking her away from her friends? Does she really get enough social? I'm like, I don't even know how we had time for real school because we are involved in so much and we have communities, pockets of people that we hang out with all the time. Well, it's been a gift to us. So truly.
And Colorado is a pretty big homeschooling state. So, you know, she hangs out with a ton of friends and goes to a lot of things that are homeschool related with friends. And so, she doesn't really know any different at this point, you know, but we made the decision 7 years ago to homeschool because I was traveling all over the world for work. And I was like, I'm going to all these cool places, you know, in Asia or Europe. And I'm like, why don't you come with me? It's the best kind of schooling, right? To get out there into the rest of the world and see how it operates and what the cultures operate.
We actually owned a business at the time. We had a coffee shop and a wine bar. And I said, thank you so much for offering. I'm not homeschool mom material, but thank you. Right. It was kind of my first inclination because I thought, it's a daunting task. I mean, you pride yourself in being an intelligent person, but I felt like we would not be giving her what she would need.
It's like this. You sit down, like I can teach you history. Jocelyn can teach you media literacy. But when the geometry comes out, do we have another person in here that knows anything about the geometry? I have with math. You know, it was always something that would come up and I'd be like, I have no idea like how to teach this. I don't know what to do. So when you decided to do this, you made the decision. You know, I think a lot of people, their goal would be to retire early, right? Like it would be to do that. what goes into that calculation? Like, I know when we quit our jobs, that was a huge calculation, right? It was like, we've got this online business. This is how much money we make. We don't know how much money we're going to make in the future, but like, we know what it makes now. Like, what went into that calculation? Like, to look at that, like, was there like, hey, this is how much we'd have to live on? Like, why a boat? Just because that was like, well, a boat, we can pay for it once and cry once and live on it, was that the calculation on the boat? Like, what goes into that? Like, how do people get to that point where they're like, all right, I'm retiring early, I'm going to go do this, and I'm going to do something else?
We jumped in with both feet too, right? We sold our house, or really we rented our house out for 7 years. We sold we got rid of all of our stuff. I mean, we really can drive around a car with the majority of our stuff. What we didn't have, we lost, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But, when we talked about like sailing, I drove my financial planner nuts. I probably met with him either on the phone or in person, like once a month at least, just fine tuning the numbers over and over and over again, like picking out every single thing. We planned Landon's wedding, how many cars we're going to purchase.
He, more than myself, had to figure out what's that number that I feel comfortable that will take care of my family and provide. It may not be as comfortable if it would have been had he worked all the way through, but he finally landed on a number that was good. I think that you felt comfortable with.
Yeah. Between Landon's all taken care of, like with schooling and wedding and all that kind of stuff. Beth is taken care of from my healthcare, long-term healthcare plans and all those type of things. We got to the point where it was just, everything was falling in place, and it was just, the timing was just right. We said, I could work for another year and make another good sum, but I also want to share this adventure with Landon before she goes off to college. And now she's a freshman this year in high school. And we're kind of, every year we wait, we're losing that opportunity, right? And our goal is to sail around the world, right? It's not just, sail the Caribbean. We want to circumnavigate the world and spend time doing in that. It's a 5-year, 7-year journey somewhere in there, right? And so we said, we got to do it now, or we're not going to be able to do this with Landon. So,
When we retire, when she graduates, when was always the sound bites that we had in our head. And we thought, we got to change this messaging we're even giving to ourselves, because that's too far out. We may not have that.
There might not be a win. There's never a win.
Yeah, exactly.
When we first realized that we could quit our jobs, I think it was a dream or a goal, but I don't know if I really believed. I believed it was possible, but I didn't know what would happen or when it would be possible. And when we looked at the math, and I realized, oh my gosh, we can do this. Like, I don't know if we'll do it in a year, but it's doing it now. And I looked at it and I was like, we've got to go all in. Jocelyn said that was like easier than anything I've ever, or harder than anything I've ever convinced her to do. Like, she, to this day, she's like, looks at, because the math, if I look back on it, honestly, the math does not make sense. Right.
Yeah.
And just because we had like a year of savings, but we didn't know for sure how. We had only been in business 1 year. We didn't know if year 2 was going to work. Right.
Totally. Yeah.
And but it was kind of like, but Isaac and Anna are going to be this age once ever.
Right.
So worst case scenario is we got to spend this year of their life waking up and going to bed with them every single day, and that was kind of like was the decision maker for us. Was like, this is our shot. It may not work. I mean, during that first year, there was more than one time where I was like, get your resumes ready. Get them ready, baby. We got to go apply for jobs again.
Well, after I got out of the Air Force and we moved back to, moved to Illinois, I was going to school full time. And, our first year out of the Air Force, our combined income was $16,000. Mm-hmm. Oh, just a little over 16,
almost 17.
Yeah, just a little over $16,000 combined income. And so we've experienced the lowest income and the highest income in our 30 years. And we loved the moments back then as much as we love the moments now, right? And we love the time together, right? And so it's like, and we're risk takers too, right? We were venture junkies and we're risk takers. And so we knew, like, if this failed and I had to go back to work,
both of us,
it wasn't a big deal. Neither one of us have enough pride that we wouldn't go work at Home Depot or McDonald's or whatever it was
if we absolutely had to.
If we had to, right? Mm-hmm. And so we're like, you know what? If this doesn't work out, we'll sell the boat and just go back to whatever we're doing, But
whenever Jocelyn gets a little worried about one of my harebrained ideas, because I'm definitely the risk taker, and she's definitely the person that keeps me from. She makes sure my parachute's packed. You know what I'm saying?
There you go.
But whenever I always go, she's like, "Gosh, have mercy! Like, what? Have you thought this through?" I'm like, "Okay, well, let's do that." And I always say, "All right, tornado in the trailer park. Let's go." Like, what happens if the tornado comes through the trailer park right now? Let's do it. And we'll go through and we will literally like, okay, we start with, okay, someone dies. All right, that's terrible. That's the worst possible scenario.
Right.
All right, so now let's go to no one's dead. All right, so now we can work on life. And then we'll look at things like income goes to zero. Everybody quits the business. Like all of our customers go away. Like, and we go through the scenario. And honestly, guys, there comes a point where it ain't that bad. I mean, like now, after we've took some risks, you know, worst case scenario is what? A paid off house and a couple cars in the garage. I mean, let's figure it out. Like I'll go fold sweaters at JCPenney's, you know, like that.
A lot of people don't think far enough ahead. Like you're saying you do. You think, oh, it's just, there's too much that could happen. Well, no, let's play that out. We're big on that at like going all the way to whatever the goal is and then reverse engineering it, coming back to what has to happen, all of these. And we're good at, like, sounds like you're the accelerator in your family, but we always say every car has to have a brake and accelerator. And we kind of do that for each other. If I'm getting out there and he'll be like, whoa, sister, let me reel you back in.
Well, you're thinking beyond, though. That's the problem. You're thinking beyond. Most people think to the disaster. The exercise that we're all doing right here is, well, what happens after a disaster? If there is a disaster, we account for it. Yeah. And the business goes out of business, or you run out of your retirement money, whatever. Yeah. Like, well, what do we do next? And most people can barely think of where they're at, not what's next after that. They can only think to the disaster, you know?
Right. So we've done so much goal planning over our lifetime. And, you know, we always talk about getting to that one goal. And for us, that one goal is being in our 90s, walking down a beach, hand in hand, grandkids in tow with Landon there and her husband in some exotic location. And that's the goal, right? And in order to get to that one goal, there's a lot of things that have to line up. Your faith, your finances, your fitness level, your all kinds of all these kind of things, right? Like on the 7 F's, but then you can reverse engineer each of those things to monthly, weekly, daily goals, and that gets you to that place, right? And so that's been our life for 30 years talking about this stuff, right? Because we've had that tornado in the trailer park, right? Multiple times, yeah. Whether it's cancer or whether it's or I don't know if you want us, we can dive into what happened next.
I'm about to ask you about the boat. Yeah. I'm trying to set this up. A little T-ball action going on right here. What you guys do, and I knew you were my people as soon as we sat down and talked, because when you do stop thinking about everything that can go wrong and you start saying, what if it all goes right? Most successful people I know work through the disaster in the trailer park, look at what would be possible afterwards, or the worst case scenario, or the floor is what we call it in our family. Like, what's the floor? What's the floor? Is the floor that bad? Probably not. Right. And then then we go back and we can start looking at the actions you have to take to make the outcome you have. Now, are you guys both going to be 90 years old walking down the beach? Who knows? We don't know that, right? But you're doing all the things that you got to do to get there, you know?
Exactly.
So now we plan. So you guys plan, buy a boat, retire early, flip your life, living life on our terms, baby. Woo! What happened to the boat, man? What happened to the boat, dude?
So May 5th, we left Florida. May 18th, we were in Georgetown, Bahamas. And we went grocery shopping because our next big leg was going to be Dominican Republic. And we came back to the boat being on fire. And so
the tornado came through the trailer park.
Tornado came through the trailer park.
Way.
So Beth and I, we were just Beth and I. Landon and a friend of ours were somewhere else, and we got on the boat, opened the door, filled with smoke. I assessed, I guess military. I kind of assessed the risk. Saw there was no fire. I saw a lot of fire damage and smoke damage, but at the moment there was no fire. Called for the dogs. We had 2 Belgian Malinois on board with us. They didn't come, and so we looked for them. We found them. In the meantime, Beth is calling for help. Another dozen sailors come from their boats because we were anchored in an area, and so a lot of other boats were there, and so a lot of sailors came over. I tried to give CPR to the dogs. We lifted them, got them up on top of the boat, and gave CPR, but they were already gone by this point. And so we think it was probably more oxygen deprivation, because the reason there was no fire is because the boat was closed up, the air conditioning was on, and I think the lack of oxygen starved out the fire, but also killed our dogs. So we all the sailors came over and helped turn off electronics and all this other kind of stuff. And
It's amazing. I mean, when things like that happen, I feel like you see the best side of humanity. And it's a shame we have to get to where something like that happens in order for people to respond. But these people that we didn't know just, I mean, kicked into action, and just that, it was a beautiful thing to see amongst our sadness in such a heavy time. It was a gift.
I'm crying right now, by the way, because like I'm a dog guy. I don't know if you know this, but like I got 4 dogs, and like they're family. You know what I mean? Like,
I think they're
they are your 4-legged family members.
The picture painting is kind of on the wall. So Beth and I went to the hospital for smoke inhalation, and while we were there, our daughter texts us and says, she's gone, meaning the boat. It's back on fire. Because and people left after they did all that they could do, but there was a fire rekindled somewhere, which is pretty common. I mean, you get flare-ups again because obviously a lot of oxygen's in there now, and so it flared back up and basically sank in no time, and so we lost everything. And the irony of it sitting on all of this water, and yet we couldn't get any of it up. And there was no fire department, at least on water, that could come out and do anything. So all everybody could do was just watch.
If you're going to anything good in life, like, all right, we're going to make the attempt to retire early, right? Yeah. We're going to go after it. But I mean, things can go wrong. They really do. Yep. Like, so, they're going to. So what happened next? Like, so with the boat's now at the bottom of the ocean, you guys are in the Bahamas, right? You've lost your dogs. I mean, but had you accounted for this? Like, if this happened, what would we do? Or was it more like, okay, this is definitely the worst case scenario. Like, what happens next? Like, what'd you do next? It's funny you asked that, because we had gone through so many scenarios. That was not even one. And thank God that didn't happen like at night while you were sailing in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I mean, we feel so fortunate and so blessed that even in our most heartbroken stage, because I would say that was the most broken we've probably ever been. And it's not like we haven't been through trials and things haven't, taken twists, but that was, it was our dark moment. I designed the boat to be the safest possible thing I thought it would be. And we can't talk about exactly how the fire started, because there's some legal stuff going on, but I thought it was just the safest boat. And when it was all about protecting my family, right? And you understand that, right? You do everything as a man, as a husband, to protect your family. And in that moment, I was crushed, right? Because I failed to protect my family. And it could have been so much worse. To your point, we could have been in the middle of nowhere. My daughter could have stayed back and taken a nap on the bed. I mean, it could have been so much worse. So we're blessed for sure that the outcome wasn't any worse, for sure. Yeah. And then what happened next, was candidly a blur, because we were in shock, right? And frankly, more so than the word cancer. When we heard the word cancer, I never thought I was going to die, even at stage 4 melanoma, which is, the percentages are not with you. And for whatever reason, in my gut, my heart, I never thought I was going to die. I knew God had bigger plans for us. But after the boat, man, it was tough. That's an all-in moment, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, cancer is kind of a revelation. Like, someone reveals a diagnosis to you, right? And you're like, okay. And now you have time to kind of assess the options. But when your boat, which is your house, is gone, and you're in another country, like, I mean, it's like there is no option. You're just there on an island somewhere, And we had literally like a t-shirt, shorts, and a pair of flip-flops each. I mean, we had like all of David's medications that he has to be on, glasses. Our friend was on the boat with us, hearing aids. I mean, all the things that you need to survive. So people's kindness was so amazing. You hit a low point in your life when you're wearing another man's used underwear.
Yes, man.
He made that comment one day, and he's like, I'm sitting here in someone else's underwear, and I don't even care. He's like, I'm so thankful to have something. And I told him, I said, it was hard for me. I grew up, my dad's a preacher, so we were always there for everybody by their bedside. When things went bump in the night, we were like, oh, let's take up a collection for so-and-so. Let's donate. Let's go work. And I thought, this is an uncomfortable feeling to be on the other side, when I now am one of those people that it's hard to accept help sometimes, to like, to ask for it, or to, and I think it helps people be a part of your story. So many people are like, what can I do for you? I'm like, no, just pray for us. We're good. We've got it. We didn't even know really what we needed. It's one thing too, like we had like I'm in my office here. We used to live in this house. So this house is our old house, and now it's my studio.
down the street one Christmas, a house burned down and the whole neighborhood, everybody's freaking out. They got the family out, they got the kids out, and they went over to my neighbor's house that we went to church with. The dad, he was about my size, so I went and grabbed a bunch of sweatsuits and stuff, threw them in a garbage bag, took them down there, so I had some clothes. But like, it's different there. Like, you were amongst strangers in a foreign land. I mean, you had to rely on the goodness of like true strangers, right? Like,
yes,
it was. I mean, and it's the number of people that came to us in that moment. The Bahamians were amazing. Our friends from afar were like, what can we do? Candidly, they set up a GoFundMe and we were pretty uncomfortable with that.
Yeah.
We're like,
it didn't feel right.
But my a friend of mine actually was my financial advisor. He's like, because he donated money to it too. He's like, we just want to do something, and just let us do something. And so
people to be part of your story. I've always done that for other people, and I'm like, thank you for letting me help you and feel like I'm part of your return. Your pendulum. And so that's been a lesson I think that it's taught us too, which we try to look for the lesson in everything. Right? We're those people that. I feel like everything happens for a reason, right? And so we don't look at, and it was funny because we have the philosophy. We don't just look at life as in each circumstance as something to get through. We try to view it as an adventure that we can go through and then hopefully eventually grow through. So that mindset, that outlook has helped us too, though, because I know a lot of other people, and some people, like, were you the one that said there are going to be people that are working against you? And a lot of times they share your last name, right? And so even we know people that are close to us, friends, family, that have a more negative outlook, or just don't look at what, how can I benefit from this? And,
or what's really like, I can imagine the I told you so's coming out in the woodwork in that situation. Like, I told them this would happen, maybe not. You can feel them even if they're not there in that situation like that.
Yeah. Our family, none of
them has been supportive.
Totally. Yeah. They were, maybe some of them were like, thought we were crazy. But but they're extraordinarily supportive of the idea. Even my mom or Beth's parents, as they're getting up there in ages, my mom's like, I lived my life, go live your life. Right. And so they were amazingly supportive. And even after the fire, and no one asked the question, like, what are you going to do next? It's more of the question of, when are you going to get another boat? Because they knew we were going to go. They knew who we were, and that was not going to stop us, right? Because nothing else before that had stopped us. We're not going to let this thing ruin our dream. And so, actually, we just put an offer on a boat, and it got accepted.
Nice. How did you get home? Like, did you all just did you have to? I assume your passports and everything were on the boat, maybe at the time, or did you luck out and have it in your back pocket?
Well, because we had to go to the hospital. We needed our passports.
There you go.
Thank you, God. Oh my goodness, that complicates everything further. If you don't.
The friend we were with, who was on the boat with us, he lost his passport and then they had to go to Nassau, and it was
to go to the embassy. I mean, you never think about those things, to go to an embassy to get approval for. So it adds another element to it. So thankfully for us, we had everything we needed.
And I had this little safe on the boat where our passports were at, and so. Because we brought the safe up, I just gave it to my buddy who was on another boat. And I said, just take the whole thing, which had some cash in it and some like our daughter's passport and stuff like that, and my wedding ring. And so we were fortunate enough to have that. Beth unfortunately lost her wedding ring, but so anyway, so we flew from there to Miami. Beth grew up in Miami, and so we had a bunch of friends there who gave us their apartment. Ironically, we had our car still in Miami. Because
when we would come home for like Christmas or vacations, we thought, well, it'd be nice to keep it here. This will likely be where we would fly into from our journeys. And so, that was great. So
so we kind of took this. We stayed there for maybe a month almost.
A month.
And then just kind of slowly took this road trip home, made it very homeschool focused, saw a bunch of friends and family along the way, and just took our time. Yeah, honestly, we didn't want to come home right away. Because
that was the first question people ask us, right? Yeah. They're like, "You're coming home, right?" We were like,
"It just felt like
didn't feel like home anymore."
Well, it felt like it just kind of confirms the failure, right? By coming home and like going back and living in your parents' house because we don't have a house anymore. Right now,
children living in their parents' basement, right?
Right now we're in an Airbnb, but it just felt like failure, right? So we just didn't want to come back. So.
So what did you just get a place down there for a little while, like just to kind of chill and
So
hang out?
friends of Beth, and mine now, had an apartment, and they just let us live there rent free for as long as we wanted.
That's amazing.
Which was nice, just to kind of heal. And we had to stay close because everything wasn't done with the, all the questions that they had for us. And so, yeah, we were able to slowly start.
That's the thing too. Like in America, like, how kind of things would happen if like a house burns down or something. But like, I mean, this is like maritime stuff, man. It's in another country. You're under their laws and like, but like, it can't stop you. You just got to keep rolling. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because
you don't know the unknown. Through it.
It's funny how sometimes things kind of slap you in the face too, right? So not even 2 miles from here, all these homes burned down in Colorado. Yeah, I remember earlier this year.
Sure,
it's called the Marshall Fire.
Yep.
It's right here in this town that we're at, and you could see all the rebuilding going on, but there's home after home after home and business just burned down. It's like a war zone. And I remember driving by there, and I'm like, and they're nice homes, of course. And I was like, well, at least they have insurance. And then, of course, our boat burnt down, and we had insurance too. But I mean, like the level of how crushed we were, I can't imagine how crushed they were, because they went through the same things. They lost everything they owned, their dogs or pets or whatever. And
then insurance doesn't make it easy for you. You don't think about all the red tape and things you have to jump through.
Yeah.
In the process of your grief and your heartbreaking moments. And so now we have a different sensitivity to people, I think, than I've ever had before. And it's not like we were insensitive, but you don't know what you don't know. Right. So we know how to be of help probably better to people, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. And
that's what people don't think about and they don't account for, though. And like, it's what like on my entrepreneur journey, I can do nothing but compare it to my old life. That's the only thing you can do. Like you can't, that's the only context we all have. We all live our own life. Right.
Yeah.
And when I hear about someone losing their job, of course it hurts me. Right. Like you guys, when you drove down that street and you saw those houses burn down, of course it hurts you. And then you're thinking about your risk you took. And yes, the boat burned. Right. I think about some businesses I've started that failed miserably and how there was moments in my journey where I could have had to tell my parents and brothers and everybody, I failed. I'm going back to work. Right. Yeah. But like the things that happen to you, it can happen when you play it safe too. You can totally lose everything, whether you think you can or not. Like my first job was school teaching. That's what I really got my first career was. And school teaching is like the safest job ever. Like when you get tenure, just don't break the law. That's it. That's all you got to do. Right. Don't break the law. And I thought my job was so safe, but then, and I was playing it safe, getting my pension, getting my retirement. My family was secured, right? I was playing it safe. Yeah. And then all of a sudden I was at a school. It was like North County and South County, right? The school board voted to consolidate the high schools and create a new high school. Now, they didn't even build a new building. They were going to put the 9th and 10th grade at one, and it was the same crap, right? Same kids, same buildings, same teachers. But what they did, though, is that resets tenure for everyone in the county. And they were able to let people go. So I was like, dude, even playing it as safe as, that's really what made me start thinking about my career, dude, was like, I played it as safe as a human can do it. A government job with tenure, and I still got screwed. Well, why would I not take the risk? Get on the boat. Who cares? Go to the Bahamas. I mean, that's where you got to go.
And I think we look at, certainly we take the risks, but we also look at, there's people out there doing it, right? And I'm not going to live my life through them. I'm going to get out there and do it, right? Whatever that is, right? Why would you sit there? I'm floored by the amount of people that watch reality TV and all the things that go on in life. It's like, why aren't you out there doing it? Why don't be envious of the people you're watching? Just go out there and do it, right?
So you're getting ready to get this new boat. Right.
Yep.
Getting ready to get back out on the water. There's an epic analogy floating around here when you get back out on the water, man. This is gonna be the greatest blog post in the history of blog posts. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're actually on the boat again. Yeah. I can picture it now. There's like a picture of the boat on fire next to a picture of you going back out on the boat.
There's a lot of votes for Phoenix being the boat's new name. So
like rising out of the ashes.
Yeah, man. No, that has to happen now. You should have said that out loud, man. It's so funny because I don't talk a lot about what happened like after we sold our business at elementarylibrarian.com. Like I usually my story stops there because I'm really trying to transition to that point later because people haven't got there yet. Your story is that there's going to be an epic story that's kind of told now after you go back to this point, like of overcoming, like this is a good second level entrepreneurial story, right? But most people out there, 90% of people are like, yeah, but how do I retire early? How do I get the first boat? How do I make the first like choices? Like, and I was writing some notes down when you guys were saying things in your journey. Like one thing I noticed about your story is just like that consistent effort. You said you were chipping away, like, right. That's you're doing it every day, that, you're planning ahead, and like how relationships are really important to build and everything. Like
if your plan isn't part of your day, it's a wasted day. It's a wasted day. Right.
Yeah, man.
And like, you've got to wake up and work that plan. There's so many people that get to the end of a week, end of a month, end of a year, and they're like, they have no clue what they did. Right. They have no clue why they are in the place they are. And it's like, well, it's because you didn't work your plan. It's because you don't have a plan. Right. And so it's don't be surprised that you're in the same place you were at the beginning of the year, right?
And we had to sacrifice a lot. I got so sick of David saying early on, oh my Lord, short-term sacrifice for long-term gain. That means we didn't go out to eat as much as our friends. They all wanted to meet out. And he's like, well, what if we all come over and cook out at our house? And we do that so we're not having to tip someone. We're not having to drink or pay a bar tab or like whatever, go to a comedy club. And they're like, no, we're good. We want to go out. And we didn't exclusively stay in.
Right.
But that was a sacrifice we made, was to bank my whole salary and think, how can we live off of one? Because, retirement seems so far down the path at that point. You can't even think, just like your kids being the age they are. You feel like you just brought them home year before last from the hospital. And you're like, how are you almost in high school? Or so that was a little bit it was just frustrating for me to hear because he's planner like extraordinaire. But it was something that we did chip away at that has proven results. I mean, because here we are in our early 50s, how'd that happen? And we were able to make that a reality.
And it's not just planning, it's paying attention. Like, I like what you said there. I've never heard anyone quite say it like that. Like if you're not paying attention to your plan, like on a daily basis. Yeah. And like one thing I learned, I actually added this thing. There's this book called Profit First by this guy named Mike Michalowicz. And one of the things that he recommends early in the book for business owners, he said, like, most business owners don't know how much money they have because they just don't look at it. They're scared to look at it. Right. So he bakes it in every other week to look at your finances. And I started loving this practice so much. Like I do it weekly now. Like Friday, I call it Money Day. And I am engaging with my money like every week, even like sometimes it'll be like there's nothing going on, but I have the same checklist and I go through it because, Jocelyn's plan at some point is she wants to go to the Caribbean and just bounce around to all-inclusive resorts. She doesn't want to sell boats. There you go. Like I did the math. People. She's your people. Yeah. And I did the math on it. It's not that much to do that. Like you can totally do that. And I did the same thing. Oh, wait, if I live till 99 and that's this many months and that's this much money, like how much would that be? And then can you produce it every month? Right. And started looking at that. But like, it's like, I think about that whenever I look at money on Money Day. And like, I do the same thing with my day. Like I'm not just meticulous about planning my day. I actually stop twice. I get up in the morning before everybody else wakes up because too much going on. And I plan my day. Right. But I actually stop throughout the day. And I have this like journal. This is a weird practice. I got this journal. Right. And it's just one of those leather bound kind of journals. You know what I'm saying? I stop and like at, like 10 o'clock today before I started podcasting, I write down everything I did and give myself credit for what I've already done. Like I woke up Anna, that's awesome. Fed dog, read this book, took kids to school, whatever. Right. And like, I have to check in with my plan even throughout the day to make sure that I'm doing it.
There's this great quote by Eisenhower that I'm going to destroy completely, but it's, planning is critical. Following the plan isn't. Yeah. And what he means by that is, your plan's going to change. Right. And you can have the perfectly best laid plan for some, during, World War II. Right. But if you had to deviate from that plan in order to have success, it's okay. Right. And our plan is constantly pivoting, right? I mean, it's because, you have a boat fire, you have cancer, you have it, and it's okay, right? We take a short, deviation from it, we get back on track, but it's still part of the plan. It's still part of the longer vision of our plan, right?
I learned the value of counseling after my son's incident at the daycare because he had a lot of problems after that. And like, because I mean, it was just a very traumatic experience. And we took him to counseling. And I saw the value of this in our family. I started like doing individual counseling. And I had a great therapist one time. He was like, you know, the airplane pilot accounts for everything that could go wrong, but he doesn't worry about it. That's really what planning does, is it gives you an accounting of what can happen. And at least if something, like even when something does happen, you've accounted, even if you don't account for the exact thing, like boat fire. Well, you've definitely thought about like, what if we get stuck somewhere? What if our clothes blow off the boat or whatever? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, so you've got some form of starting point, basically, where it doesn't all go to pot. When did you start blogging? When did you start blogging on your website and stuff?
We started blogging like maybe late last year, maybe, and I'm really defunct. I gotta get another one out there. But we really started on Instagram, and for whatever reason, that kind of blew up. Right? We have 55,000 followers or something like that out there. And it was weird to think people were interested in what we had to say. And it's
because we weren't even out on the water yet, right? Yeah. I mean, that was our goal. But right now we don't really have a lot of material. But it had to be during COVID too, right? Late COVID, because people, we turned it into more of a motivational rather than us getting out there. It was more just motivational things to put out there. And so many people thanked us and said, wow, we really need this. We need hope during this time. We need a refocus, something out in the distance. And so that has kind of it's been nice to have that in the process. But
then when we started to get out there sailing, and then even post sailing during the accident, we were very raw in terms of, our feelings and emotions through it and stuff like that, and what we're thinking. And so,
I think that's people like that though, right? Because sometimes 100%. You just have to be willing to go first, right? Once we've told our stories in whatever regard of elements we've gone through, either separately or together, people are like, oh, me too. Or, oh, I never said that to anybody because it was a shame I carried, or it was not my best, brightest moment. And whatever we're going through, we just put it out there. It's kind of who we are.
People
we don't
are
do it for any other reason.
Fake, or like the Instagram shiny, glossy feel. People want real stuff. Yeah. That's why I think that's the only reason why our podcast works, is because when we started this, we were like, who's going to listen to two people from Kentucky about how to start a business, But now I'm like, I haven't shaved today. I'm wearing a hoodie. If you're watching on YouTube, I don't even know where I got this hat, probably a trash can somewhere, but it's why it works, because I just don't care about all that other crap.
Like the sexual abuse, right? I've been talking about it for a long time now, since about 30 years now, right? People are, would come up to me, and somebody close to us said, Colorado's got all the dispensaries, right? So, hey, do you want some, marijuana? I'm like, for what? She's like, well, for your PSTD. And I'm like, I don't have PSTD. And I'm not trying to discount other people that have gone through it. Everyone's story is different, right? But because I always talk about it, and I did some work with some men at our church up a retreat and all this kind of stuff, it's easy to deal with once you just talk about it, right? With the boat burning down, we've just been kind of an open book about that as well, and it's like, we trust in God. Even now, when getting back on the boat again, we put that in God's hands, and we're like, look, if this is what you want us to do, like if the boat burning down was a message to say, don't get back out there, then tell us that, right? But if you want us to get back out there, then put that in front of us as well, because whatever it is, if you want us to go to Africa and serve in a missionary, we are totally down with that. It's like, but you tell us where you want us to go, because we feel like going out and sailing and going to these small communities in the middle of nowhere in South Asia or Panama or wherever, and ministering there, that we see that as part of our mission, right? But if God wants us to go in a different direction, we are totally open to that.
But I saw something one time, I think, that was so impactful for me. And again, I'm probably going to slaughter this, but basically it was, whatever you're going through now, as heavy it is or whatever, keep in mind, when you share it, that's going to be someone's survival guide one day. They're going to use your story, and it'll be part of their survival guide. And I was like, whoa, that is huge. Don't just let yourself go through it and learn your own lessons. Try to help someone else either not have to repeat those, right? That's what my dad always said. Any fool can learn from his own mistakes. A wise man learns from the mistake of others. So maybe if I can help someone say, maybe you're not as hard-headed as me or whatever, you can learn from this. That just became part of, I think, my guiding mantra is just, however painful it would be, share it and get it out there.
I recorded some more podcasts this morning, and both of them were about real heavy topics. One was about actually trauma, abuse in marriage, and she was helping women who had actually been like physically abused. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that was her story. And then the next lady was someone who had discovered infidelity and how to heal from that, not necessarily heal the marriage, because that doesn't always happen, but like, how do you heal from that? And man, I'm seeing more and more people courageously doing stories like that. There's the fun stories we have of like, I learned how to play guitar and I taught someone how to play guitar. That's great. That's amazing, man. That's awesome. And like everyone wants the, I'm doing what I love kind of story. But I'm actually seeing more and more and more and more as the, I'm an 80s baby, man. Nobody talks about nothing back in the 80s.
No,
dude. I mean, it was keep up with the Joneses and don't let them know what's really happening at the Smiths, And, but now it's like this more open society we have where people are like, man, no, I have horrible things in my thing. And to hear you say that, I'm stealing that, by the way, but I'm going to, that your story becomes someone else's survival guide. Like that's what these online businesses that I'm seeing people create actually do is like my analogy is always, you've been through the valley of the shadow of death. You got out the other side. Well, turn around and throw down a rope. Like, cause somebody else is still in the valley, man. And you guys are seeing that. And like the story parallels it. Like it's funny. The boat story parallels it. Like, right. It's like, we risked it all, did the boat burns to the bottom of the ocean. Right. But you don't give up, you go do it again, and that's kind of like what happens with business. It's what happens with life. Like if that was the only thing you got out of everything, man, everything could probably work out,
Right. And we're all a hot mess express at any given moment. Right.
Oh,
just trying to be the best
at all given moments.
All given moments. Right. So that's why the fakey like social media thing doesn't work. Cause some people buy into it, but I look at that and I think, no, right? Life is not rainbows and unicorns all the time. And if that's all that you're serving up, the glitterized version, but we're all just trying to be the best version of ourselves. And I think if we can give ourselves grace and extend that grace to other people, that's what we're looking for. And we have done that. And we always say, you find your tribe. If you're willing to do that, you find your tribe and find those people that will help you walk through life or do life, or as our preacher always says, your 2:00 in the morning friends, right? Because you have a lot of people you come in contact with and you have different levels of relationship with, but who are your people, right? That when the world comes crashing down around you, who are the voices or who do you have a seat at your table, if you will. So we're like an extended table, I guess.
From the beginning, the Flip Lifestyle, it's not been like Flip Lifestyles, course or whatever. I don't ever put it on Shane Sams, the coach, or whatever like that. Like it's a community. Like it's all about community. And if you have, even if you only sell a course or a ebook or whatever it is, or even if you only have an Instagram account, that's still a community of people who care about the same thing. Right. Yep. So like until you start building everything around that, it's not going to be good anyway. Like I've actually seen a lot of people in our community who have incredible success in their own right, but then they can't quite turn the corner in their online business, like whatever their problem they solve is. And one of the questions that we do ask in our coaching program is, what failures have you shared? And what we'll look at their Instagram and we'll look at their stuff. And it's always like, I'm successful. I'm the expert. I did this. Right. And even if they're telling their story, it's still like, look at me. But like, until they talk about the vulnerable side of things and people realize that they're human, they don't give them money. It's just not going to happen, So like, that's when you've got to step out and embrace everything that's bad about yourself. That's the only way you're ever going to become an expert. So when's the boat go back on the water?
Woo!
So I go down Sunday to do sea trials on it and do surveys and all that kind of stuff. And then we hope to close on it by mid-January, and we hope to be back out mid-February, early March. So
nice, man.
Such a bright spot of hope amongst a lot of other things. It's just, it's such a beautiful thing. We're excited.
Yeah, and we honestly, even after the boat burned down and we got back on land, all three of us were saying it just felt weird, like wrong being on land, right? And even landed, she just can't wait to get back out there, right? And so, we're super excited. I think
that there's a great parallel there to kind of close up with entrepreneurship. And I don't even know if it's entrepreneurship. I've never liked that word because I've even resisted using it like in the language that we use. It's just more like I can't come up with a better word for people who live life on their terms. There's the FIRE community who saves up all their money and retires early. There's the entrepreneurs who start their own online business so they can control their time. And like, I might just have to make one up. I might Kentuckiana this at some point. And like, but it's like that. It's just that concept of, for 100 years or longer, like the world told us that we had to follow railroad tracks, and like the internet gave us this ability, like to do things, like to find a new boat, to get on Instagram and tell your story, to start a business and serve people. And like, that's our whole message, man, is like, just live your freaking life. Like I'm a big philosophy guy. I read Marcus Aurelius. I only read people that are 2,000 years old or older. That's my rule. There's this real big theme of, in a lot of stuff I've been reading, from Ecclesiastes to Marcus Aurelius to Seneca to all these people, it's been coming up over and over lately, of not this you only live once mentality. It's you will die. The people who know about you when you die and remember you will die.
Yeah.
And then the people who know them will die, and then you are forgotten. I hate to tell everybody out there, ain't no Alexander the Great's running around. Elon Musk won't be remembered 1,000 years from now. I hate to tell everybody this.
Yeah.
And like the reason that is such a powerful thing when you realize it, right? Yeah. Is it's not just that you only have one life to live. This experience and existence that you are walking through right now is the only time it will ever happen for anyone ever in the universe. And the universe itself won't even remember it eventually. So like, you have to take advantage of it. You can't waste away in a freaking cubicle for 12 hours a day. Like, you've got to figure something out where you're at least on the weekends getting on a sailboat, man. You know what I mean?
Well, so it's crazy, to your point, how many people, and I mean, if you're working toward a plan and you're in a cubicle, that's perfect, right? But if you like, there's so many people that just are sitting in that cubicle day after day after day, and their only plan is to get off work and go to the bar and drink with buddies, right? And it's like, and that's all they do, day over day, day after day after day. And I'm like, it just drives me insane when I see that, right? Because I just want to, like you probably want to pull them out of there and put them on some other path.
I want to shake them sometimes, man. I'm a big guy.
Sure.
I feel like that at my live events sometimes, when I see someone who I know has an idea that's a winner and they can't get over themselves,
Or the other thing is, like, I know so many people where, I mean, they have millions of dollars, right? I'm like, when is enough?
Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, like, they're not spending time with their family. They're still working. They're owning multiple companies. And it's like, well, just when is enough, right? And like, go do, like, if you're not spending that time with your family and leaving that legacy for your family, then like something's wrong, right?
I saw a guy this morning that was literally taking the position that was like, people are like, oh, I'm not spending time with my kids. He's like, your kids don't want to spend time with you, and you got to work. You're a man. You don't need to spend time with them. You need to be working. He goes, you give them an hour before bed. That's all they want anyway. You got stuff to do with your, and I'm like, this is poison, dude. What's being taught out there, man? And like, I just can't. I can't take it anymore. I feel like every time someone quits their jobs, it's like, the angel gets its wings. It's like somebody's kid got a dad to pick them up at school at 3:00. You know what I'm saying? Or somebody else got to homeschool because they wanted to, or anything like that. And that's kind of the mission. That's why we related so much, even though we're not exactly in the. You're doing kind of the way you got to your taking control of your life is a little bit different than the way I'm getting, but I felt a synergy, dude, because I was like, no, these people get it. It's about finding a path that gets you to the point. I don't care if you start a restaurant. I don't care if you go build a company and sell it. I don't care what you do, but man, if you don't control every minute of your day, you don't control your life. And getting to that point as fast as possible is the finish line. I hate to tell everybody that.
Amen, bro.
So, man, it's good stuff. Well, listen, dude, I can't wait to see the pictures on your Instagram when the boat goes back out. I can't wait to bless the Flip Lifestyle community and the podcast with this conversation of just that kindred spirit that we have. And you're a great family. I love your stuff. And I can't wait. I'm looking for the boat back on the water, and that'll be an epic tale.
Bud.
And
thank you for having us on. We're honored.
We'll have to put some polling out there to vote on the name, but I'm sure Phoenix is probably going to win. So.
Like he already said, it has to be.
I think Landon will be the only one that's against it, but
we just need to read her some stories, some ancient medieval. Those are 1,000-year-old books where the Phoenix came from. So we're good. We got some mythology going on there.
There you go.
Exactly.
All right, guys.
All right, brother. Thanks, man.
Take care.